Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like we do have a good amount of people rolling in, and this conversation, if you've joined us before, you know it goes so fast. And so I want to make sure that we have enough time to talk about our topic and hear from our guests. So, welcome back, everyone, to the Senior Living Sizzle. I am your host, Christie Freeze. I'm the Director of Strategic Growth here at SalesMail. And today we are talking about something I think a lot of communities need to hear, specifically right now. Just as we were getting on this call, Patrick said this is like the reinvigoration of, the year of video. It's back, it's here. We're really going to lean into it. And so we want to just share with you, you don't always necessarily need more video content. You just need more impact from the content that you're already creating. Teams have tour videos, testimonial videos, event recaps. I'm curious to see what's going on in the chat if anyone posted anything. But those could be doing so much more to support your inquiry response, your follow up, your nurture, and your conversions. So, as you see, I am joined by two great guests today, Nathan Jones of Dash Media and Patrick Leonard of the Gatesworth. So, welcome to the conversation, guys. And for those of you who don't know these two, I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. So, Patrick, let's go ahead and actually start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Christy. I'm excited to be here with you and Nathan. Yes, the year of reinvigorating the video. Can't wait to talk more about it. But for those who don't know me, I'm our Chief Revenue Officer here at the Gatesworth Communities here in St. Louis, Missouri. So we've been around since 1988. We're a private pay, privately owned, locally owned, and operated senior living community here in St. Louis, Missouri. We have about 612 apartments spanning the full continuum of care in two different campuses here locally. And so I oversee all of our leasing and marketing efforts at the community. So I grew up in this industry my entire life. My dad was a developer of actually the Gatesworth communities. I've been off on the other side of things as a tech vendor on the senior living side and technology consulting. So I've worked with a lot of you probably on this call in some form or fashion throughout the years. So I'm excited over the last couple of years to come back home to the Gatesworth communities and lead our efforts here. So excited to be here with you all and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Patrick, and you're doing a great job. We can say that for sure. All right, Nathan, how about you?
I'm Nathan. I've gotten to know Christy and the SalesMail team very well over the last few years. Doing amazing work. I started Dash Media a little over 4 years ago, January of 2022. We help tell the stories of your people, your caregivers, your residents, your families, and really have a strong focus on social media or any kind of like video production you would ever need in your communities. So excited to chat more about that today.
And you are also doing an incredible job. It's been so fun. I think the first time the three of us were all together in the same room was probably at One-on-One Sales Academy back in December. And just getting to see some of the examples and stories that you shared, Nathan, was just really inspiring. And I know we're going to talk more about that. But today, guys, we're really going to talk about how to repurpose these videos that we are all kind of centrally focused on, how to get more mileage out of them, and how marketing and sales and operations and all of the parts within a community can work together to leverage this type of content. So, I actually want to start with you, Nathan. I want to dive into what videos that you believe, especially after doing this over the last 4 years, what videos you believe are the most essential for a senior living community to have in their library. Like, what are the videos you're seeing without fail are recorded on your recording sessions?
Rather than like a specific type of video, it's like a variety of videos. So you need love stories, you need wisdom, you need these things that pull at the heartstrings and draw people in. But you also need to hear people's journey of coming to senior living and coming to your community. And then you also need to see kind of like what goes on behind the doors in a fun way and in a professional, like corporate way. And so the volume is really important to me because you never really know what's going to resonate with a specific person. So you really have to, everyone kind of has like 4 to 6 messages that they want to share and want people to know about them as a community. And so, how do you share those 4 to 6 messages in 1,000 different ways? That's kind of our philosophy. And so, in the front end of establishing what do we want people to see about us, and then how can we share this through all the different voices and all the different channels over and over and over again over the course of the year.
Yeah. I think something that, like, the answer I was kind of shooting for, which you got there, is stories, right?
Mhm.
It's stories, like
Yep.
showing versus telling. I think that's going to be the common theme through this conversation is that video allows us to show the story versus just tell the story. And so, Patrick, again, I know we were talking about this right before we hopped on, but I'm curious what video specifically with SalesMail usage so far has been the most impactful for the prospect journey.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of build off before I answer that, of what Nathan was said, it's so true. His team came out actually just about a month ago or so and did 2 half days of filming across all 4 of our communities. And, we produced like 165 videos out of that. So it's amazing how much you can capture in such a short period of time. But right, we didn't have a dedicated script necessarily for the staff and for the residents and the family members who volunteered and that we asked to be interviewed. We had kind of a general guideline, and we just let them take it where the story went, and it was so cool. And Nathan's team did such a good job, and it was cool to see the responses and the stories we got. But it was also cool to see how thankful the residents and the staff were that we asked them to be a part of the video.
Oh,
So like,
I
no, no,
love
no, thank you for doing
that.
us a favor. And they're coming back and thanking us. It was so cool. It gave them purpose. It made them feel special. So I think that was a really cool thing that came out of it that I wasn't really personally expecting, in addition to the amazing stories that we're going to release throughout this year
That's an
that we got from
incredible,
that.
that's an incredible
So
takeaway right out the gate, right? Like I think
yeah,
I hear a lot, Nathan, maybe you hear this a lot, that people are really worried that their residents or their staff or whoever don't want to be on camera.
Yeah,
And
yes.
or the other thing that we hear is like, do residents feel like they're being used by telling their story? And it's the exact opposite.
yeah,
I've never heard anyone feel like they're being used. It's what Patrick is saying is like people just want to. They've always wanted to be asked those questions, but they never have. And so when they are, they're so appreciative. It's very
yeah,
interesting.
I love
Yeah, and they get dressed to the nines. They take it very seriously, but it's casual at the same time. And
Yeah.
it's what really struck me listening to some of these too is you hear a lot of these stories, walking through the hallways of the community, but when they're sit down and they're given the platform to really just say whatever they want, it's really cool what comes out. And it was really cool to see how proud, the stories they're telling about their families and their loved ones and how proud they are, and their careers and all that stuff. And it's just things you can't capture without giving that platform. So I think that was just so cool. But to circle back to your question, Christy, on SalesMail usage, yeah, like I said, we decided to kind of make this a year of reinvigorating the video, and that was partnering with both of you all, Dash Media, to get these interviews of both staff and residents and family members, but then the usage of personalized video and our follow up with prospects. So what our first focus on was when we launched, kind of relaunched this idea with SalesMail earlier this year was to, all right, there's so many ways we can use these videos, but let's focus on just one to start. Let's make that our key focus. And so we chose to focus on that initial inquiry follow up because we get, as we all know in this industry, we get a decent amount of leads. That's not necessarily the issue. It's how we follow up with them, how we differentiate, how we make that a personalized experience. So what better way to do that is when you get all these web inquiries that are coming in opposed to just sending a blanketed email response, you're actually sending a video of yourself introducing yourself, and it's amazing the response that we got. Our leads to visits went up by 2% across the board. Our engagement of those new leads went up by 5%. So ones that actually are responding to us. And again, the data is still early, but I think
yeah.
it's trending in that right direction. It makes a powerful impact. And you also get the anecdotal stuff too. The prospects and the family members who are commenting and saying, thank you for introducing yourself. Thanks for putting a face to a name, because we were really nervous about diving into this experience. And we reached out to 5 different communities. So now we know, we're going to come see you guys as we narrow things down. So just that little touch that takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, and it makes a huge impact.
It does indeed. And I wanted to quickly give a shout out to the entire Gatesworth team because I did a little research right before this and pulled some numbers. And your team we just launched early in January and they have created 236 videos with 538 views, 411 shares, and 20 comments. And that is just incredible. And I know that you're, gamifying it a little bit, right, with the contest and making it a little bit of a competition, which salespeople just love, right? We just can't help it. And so I love that. Really incredibly proud of you all. And it's going to be so fun to see, which is going to be my next question for Nathan, but it's going to be so fun to see how some of these videos also that have been created by Dash Media on site, how they can be leveraged in the SalesMail platform. Nathan, this is something you and I have talked at length about almost every time we see each other, where we're like, do people know that they can take
Yeah.
that content and just upload it into SalesMail and then be able to push it out for value touch points, follow-ups, just giving good content of what's really going on within a community. So I would love to just kind of hear a little bit more about that. I know that's something you've told me that you've shared with folks, but what are some of those videos, or maybe it's all of them, that you would love to see people kind of pushing through that platform?
When you're asking your questions to your prospects and you're learning their stories and their objections, and I think Patrick, y'all's one of y'all's we've only posted, for 2 weeks, but the top video right now is talking about someone who was super hesitant. She was saying, I was super hesitant to moving in to a senior living community. So she said, I didn't want to do it. I thought that I would stay at home forever. And so I think that, like, if you're hearing that from a prospect, uploading a video like that as a use case of, like, this is an objection overcomer. Hey, this is someone just like you. They said the same thing. Following that up on a tour, I think can really move the needle. And I don't know if enough of our overlapped customers are using the videos in that way. So, if you are creating content on your own, or you have a videographer on your team where you're creating content, really, like, pushing it out for people who maybe don't want to film themselves, like, that's at least a start to say, like, here's something that you can use. If you're not going to film yourself, you have to at least use these,
Yeah.
almost creating a toolkit for them. And the way that you guys organize it and can kind of build those libraries of the stories, I think is a phenomenal way to follow up with folks.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to like really great discovery, right? Like for all three of us at conferences, right? We hear AI, we hear leveraging all of these tools and automation and tech and all of these things, and those are super important. But I think what keeps coming back is like the through line consistently is human connection. And so when Patrick, you've got a family on site ready to, finally divulge what's going on with them, and your team can be listening for those objections, like you said, Nathan, and be able to say, oh, actually, we have somebody that lives here that kind of navigated something really similar. You should hear from them. Really just keeping in mind, everybody, as you're watching this, to Nathan's point, whether you're personally creating the content, you've got somebody like Dash Media creating your content, keep in mind that these tools and these platforms talk to each other and they can be used in multiple different places. That's what we really want to kind of drive home in this conversation today is that one video, let's call it this story that you just used as an example. Like Patrick, your team can upload that video into SalesMail and just have that ready to push out anytime they get objections like that, or even if they have cold leads, right, that have gone, they've ghosted, we've not heard from them in months and months, which I'm sure doesn't even happen at the Gatesworth because why wouldn't they want to move there? But it happens to us. And so to be able to send a video out like Nathan just described, saying, hey, when you were here 4 months ago, I really sensed some hesitation and I noticed that you were really kind of struggling with this decision. You should hear from Nancy. I'm deciding that's her name. You should hear from Nancy that she's kind of had that similar experience and now she lives here and is thriving.
Yeah, the classic answer we always hear is like, I wish I would have moved in sooner. And a lot of times it's from, like, couples that moved in, when one of them had something happen, a life event happen. And they were like, I wish we would have moved in sooner so we got to enjoy this place even more and for longer. And so I think that is like when you have couples come in there going, we're going to wait until something happens, showing them the countless number of other couples that say they wish they would have moved in sooner. I think that's like the classic example of what we're all hoping to get.
For sure. Yeah. And, especially those of you that are here listening, that would be, we talked about one video that can drive conversions. That would be the video. I
Mhm.
think that, and then what Patrick's team is doing with the inquiry response, Those two together will dramatically impact your results. I promise it so. And Patrick, I want to kind of shift back to you when it comes to, I know you're gamifying, I know you're making contests, but I'm curious what advice you might give teams who want to use video. They want to be more strategic with their video usage, but they want to do so without making it feel like one more thing. Do you have any tips or advice for that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the biggest concern for any new adoption of any new thing in senior living ever, because it's
Yeah.
such a 24/7 operation. It's busy, not just sales, of course. Every piece of the operation is constantly busy. Resources are always tough, staffing's always tough. So yeah, you got to be respectful of people's time. So I think the way you roll it out and get buy-in and adoption is huge. And having a good partner to set us up for success in the onboarding process, like you all did, is huge. You build excitement, you make it very simple, you make it very streamlined, and you bite it off in small chunks, opposed to overwhelming with this whole big, great, grand new project. Because you're right, and I think some of the examples that we used was just time blocking and and not putting pressure on creating 10 videos per day. Just start with one a day,
Yeah.
and it's going to take 2 minutes. And also, I think, to go back to that, I think a big, we touched on it earlier. I think Nathan said something about it, but like, these aren't meant to be professionally studio recorded videos, right? I mean, that's great if you have that, and like, Dash Media plays some really professional stuff with what they do, but through SalesMail and you're recording yourself. Yeah, no, I hate to hear myself talk. I will not rewatch this
No.
video because I don't want to see myself on camera and I don't want to hear myself on camera. So everybody, that's not unique to anybody. Everybody
No.
feels that way, no matter how confident someone looks on camera, right? So getting over that and just calling out the elephant in the room, as you implement this, is huge. And so some of those people we saw that were a little nervous on our team to get going are some of our top performers of using the video today. So it's really cool if you just kind of give them that permission to stumble on their words, to re-record if they need to. Don't make it scripted, but we encourage everybody. And I think this was something that you taught us, Christy, was just record it once. And if you said what you wanted to say, send it. Don't re-listen to it, because you can critique yourself and analyze yourself in so many different ways, but don't. It's more authentic, it's more raw, and the prospect and their family are going to appreciate that, opposed to sending something that's more robotic and seems scripted. So that's the whole idea of this, is making it personalized. um, and so that's what I would say. Just time block. It does not take much time. It's easy. Don't try to make it too professional or scripted, and just get started with one type of video first, and then you'll build and gain momentum on that.
I love that. I think that's just all really great advice, Patrick. And, your team has been such a good example of this where the time blocking, yes, right? We're all just calendar driven. The three of us made it to this call. All of you joining and watching us live right now made it to this call because it was on your calendar. And so I think the same thing applies for when we're trying to build habits. Sales and Marketing Book Club is reading Atomic Habits right now. So I am just like locked in, anchoring in even further on how we do this. But it really does make such a difference when you just get to, you don't have to, you get to show up in an authentic way. The people, Nathan, that your team is going and interviewing, they're showing up authentically. Yes, they are getting dressed to the nines and they're feeling really good because they know they're going to be on camera, but they're telling their authentic stories. Maybe have an outline or a framework. Your team, Patrick, they're showing up every day, meeting with families. And so I always really like to encourage people that the same things that you would say to a person if they were right in front of you, say it to them here. And I know it feels a little weird. And to your point, none of us, nobody likes to hear themselves or listen to themselves on camera. And it's so funny. Nathan heard me just last week at Arizona Leading Age. I had to play one of my own examples, and I was like, I don't want, it's like 36 seconds, Christy, get over it. This is your job. But it's true that none of us enjoy that. But what we do enjoy is building trust and connection and moving people through a process that's really difficult and really heavy sometimes. And so we need to let that kind of lead the charge versus our own fears and insecurities and feeling uncomfortable. So I love that. Nathan, I'd love to ask you the same question. Do you have any tips or advice for, anything in addition to what Patrick shared?
Well, I would say I made a mistake in our first year of Dash. Uh, we needed a videographer, and so I hired someone local. They were a wedding videographer, and they were really talented, they had really good quality. But we skipped the fact of, are you curious about a 90-year-old story or 80-year-old story? Or do you care about what a CNA does every day? And I didn't ask any of those. It was just like, hey, you do really quality video work, go film for us. It was so bad that the residents sniffed it out so bad that they didn't care that we used 0 seconds of any of that footage. And so it was like just a waste of money and time. And it was uncomfortable for the residents. They didn't have the reaction, what Patrick said, that they had at the Gatesworth. The staff was like, what did we just get ourselves into? And it was a waste of everybody's time. And so from that point on, I think hiring for heart is more important than even hiring for skill when you're looking for like a videographer or a local videographer. And so it's really easy to find people who know how to use a camera and are talented. It's a little bit more challenging of finding people that understand and really have this heart and passion, because it comes through in how you interview and how you the questions you ask and how you treat someone before an interview starts and after an interview's done. It's the whole, we adopted this whole thing, like Chick-fil-A, when you say thank you so much, what do they say?
My pleasure.
My pleasure. So like when we get done with the interview, we want to shake their hand and say, thank you so much for sharing your
Yeah.
story today. That means something to someone. And I think when you do it that way and you have people that genuinely care, the content takes care of itself. That's like the heart side. The other side that I'll touch on real quick is, like Patrick said, through 2 days, we have 165 videos that we predict that we'll be able to produce from 2 days of filming. That's a lot of videos, a lot of shoots. You waste, in the early days of Dash, we would go and shoot and we would waste a lot of footage. We would never get to the good stuff. And so we've kind of built an internal database where every time we hit record, we log that footage in a database so that when you need to reference and pull stories to put in SalesMail or wherever later down the road, you can do that in this database and then re-edit the footage and repurpose it to share and hit other business goals. So I think there's an operations piece and a heart piece that I think we skip sometimes when we do, this storytelling in senior living.
I think that's great advice for those of you watching that are maybe not videographers, or maybe, you're not necessarily even in the position to hire the videographer or a team. But I think that's good advice for us just to know personally, right? Is that we typically are hiring sales directors or sales counselors or even executive directors for their heart. Yes, you are highly skilled. Clearly, you're doing a great job, right? But when you know that you are in your role for the heart piece of it, hopefully that also gives you the confidence and courage to show up on video, trusting that your heart is going to be what comes through. Not how your hair looked that day or what your outfit looked like that day or any of those things that I just know we worry about. I always challenge that though. I'm like, did you get dressed for work today? Are you going to see some prospects? Like the answer is yes, but we still are like, I don't know. And so I think really leaning into, I'm big on energy. Those of you that have watched this or know me personally know that about me, but your energy is what's going to transfer through the video. Your words, to Patrick's point, right? Have the confidence and a little bit of the guardrails down to trust that like how you speak is how you speak. Like I talk with my hands a lot. And when you see me in person, you know that I talk with my hands a lot, right? Like I'm consistent in how I'm communicating. It's just through a different vehicle. So I think that's really important just to keep in mind. That's good advice from both of you, just as teams are considering video, continuing to leverage video, all of that. I had a note here to myself too, because I said I was very contradicting to my own self. I said, what is one video asset that can work harder across the entire journey if used well? But again, I just came back to stories. And so some of those that I did list off were testimonials, community tours, events, activities captured, showcasing the community and capturing what it feels like, which is even in the videos that you've already pushed out, Patrick, right? Like we can feel what it feels like. Yes, we're hearing the words that the people are saying, but you can feel it. So I think that's really important. But is there anything that you'd like to add on that? Any other video assets, Patrick or Nathan, that you'd highly recommend somebody get captured?
No, I think that's a good point. To me, it all comes back to the stories, right? You can get great videos of your campus, of your building. You could do the perfect tour and show the most beautiful model room. But at the end of the day, those are all great to have in your disposal because those are necessary. But again, at the end of the day, the ones you see the most engagement on, the ones that are most meaningful, the ones that people are telling stories about long afterwards are the ones that were personalized, they were unscripted, they were raw, and they were with people. And they were hearing stories and communicating one to one and personally. I still have a resident who moved in 2 years ago that I sent a video to that lived out of town. Didn't show her apartment. I just introduced myself, very similar to the inquiry, response video we talked about earlier. I still see Paula walking down the hallway and she brings up that video every single time I see her. It took me 30 seconds and
Yep.
it's made a 2 year lasting impact. She's still living with us today and still talks about it, tells all of her friends, so it's just little things that go a long way. Again, your building's beautiful, I'm sure. Your rooms are beautiful, I'm sure. Your grounds are beautiful, I'm sure. Highlight your people as much as possible, residents and staff.
I love that.
And the one thing I'll add on to that is, so over the last five, it was just before Dash started, started doing this. I have like a list of like probably 400 questions that I've written down, laying in bed at night or wherever. But if you're watching TV or you're consuming something and somebody asks a good interview question, what I've done over the period of time is that would be super interesting to ask a senior living resident. And so I write it down, and over time you have these like different topics of different interesting questions that are good to ask your residents. And a lot of times those questions that are being asked in those settings, if you're seeing it on TV or social media, they're good questions for getting a lot of views too. They're because there's
Yeah.
a reason why you're seeing it. And so I would say start writing it. That is a hard part to like get. How do you pull the stories out of people in a comfortable way and allow themselves to brag on themselves without feeling like they're bragging on themselves? There's kind of an art to it, and I would say start with the questions of like what you would want to ask if you're doing interviews.
That feels like a good series for LinkedIn, Nathan. If you could start just like dropping us good
Sprinkling
questions to
them.
ask.
Yeah, that's good. Might have to do that.
Clearly, that's how my brain is always operating, and I'm sorry.
I love it.
Um, well, listen, friends, we are already at time. I can't believe it. We are going to stick around for about 10 to 15 for Q&A. So I would love to hear if any of you have any questions for Nathan, for Patrick. Please do drop them in the Q&A section. Let me take a peek at that and see if there are any. And as we're doing that, just remember, we really want you to not focus on your videos that you're creating being a one-hit wonder. I know I made that as my like LinkedIn hook the other day, but it really shouldn't be. Unless it is those super hyper personalized inquiry responses like Patrick's team is doing, the general content, we call it evergreen. And to Nathan's point, we do have in SalesMail, right, the ability to kind of favorite them, put them in folders, have them be easily accessible to kind of just plug and play. But if you've got a great video, especially if the Dash Media team has come out and put all of this work into that, don't let it be a one-hit wonder. Don't let it just go to Facebook or just go to your Instagram. Repurpose it because it will support multiple conversion moments across the journey. It's going to make a huge impact. And so that's something that we just really want to make sure that you all take away from this. We do have a question from Joelle that says, how do we get in touch with you, Nathan? Interested in getting you here to video our community. So, Nathan, could you maybe let people know the best way to get in touch with you? And friends, we will also send out contact information in the recording as well.
Yeah, she'll send out my contact information, Nathan at my-media.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll shoot you a LinkedIn connection request, Joel. I did see Cedric said
Yes.
recently started using SalesMail and increased my inquiry to tour by 30%. That is insane.
Cedric, let's go. I know. And Patrick shared some really great stats. And again, we are early. We only started, at the beginning of January, so we're only a quarter in. But over the last quarter, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, you said move-ins are up by 44%.
That's right. That's right. Compared to the previous 90
Yeah,
days. So
that's
we'll
incredible.
we'll take that all day long.
We will. I know that's not the topic of our conversation today, but I do think it's really important where people think, especially people in the buying process of SalesMail, right? And probably Nathan with you in the process of like determining ROI or determining what this is going to really produce as a result. We've got data for days and results for days, and I think it's difficult sometimes to say that one video that Dash Media made or that one sales mail that Andrew made at Park Province is the video that converted that person to a move in. It is making an impact. It is helping people to feel comfortable and confident in showing up at your community, to going through the process with you. They feel like they trust you and they can get to know you, whether you're sending a residence testimonial or story or a personalized video. And so I don't have any better quantifiable data other than 30% increases and 44% increase in move-ins, right? Like it also comes from how it is launched, how it is onboarded, how we're driving those results. And so I think, Patrick, your team's done an incredible job. And I know that that's because of your great leadership and our awesome partnership. But that's just really something to be proud of because it is making a huge impact.
Yeah, and you're right. You can't necessarily draw some of these numbers from one specific thing, right? It's not necessarily that direct attribution as it is to contribute, just general contribution. So it just goes to your point, and one of the topics we talked about earlier is just diversifying your marketing messages, your marketing platforms, the ways that you are reaching out to people, connecting with people. You're still going to do email in addition to video. You're still going to make phone calls in addition to video. So it's not necessarily one or the other, but having a great mix and testing things out and seeing both what the numbers are showing, but also the anecdotal stuff, the stories and feedback you're hearing. Some of that stuff we talked about today, how the residents feel for being interviewed, how the staff feels. All that stuff is part of the ROI. Don't make it just about the numbers. Any investors listening, I'm talking to you.
We're gonna go ahead and take that clip and put it on social media because that's a killer statement, Patrick. I say this a lot too in my presentations. Like if you sent a video at every single touch point, that's gonna lose its luster as well. But we're no longer in a time where we can just leave video out, in my opinion. Yes, we still need to call, we still need to text. I still love handwritten notes. I still love to send them and get them, right? It's not taking any of those away. It's just adding in a new modality that happens to convert at a really high rate, make a lasting impact, and make people feel something.
I have a quick story until we see
Yeah, go ahead.
So we launched this channel with Jack York called Vintage Voices for about a year and a half, and it was driving around doing 100-year-old interviews. So he would drive, we would interview 100, he would interview 100-year-olds. And one day he pulled it through this 100-year-old on her birthday through a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, and they gave her a free donut, sang her happy birthday, made her feel so good. And a week before he did it and with McDonald's and they rejected it. So it was like two very different experiences. Well, that video got a bunch of views on social media. Well, and this is my whole point of this is you never know what one video can do for your business, and it's not always measurable. But that video, the PR person from Dunkin' saw it through their algorithm, reached out to the mayor, found out where she lived in the city, reached out to the mayor of the city. That mayor of the city found the community. They, through an event, Dunkin' Donuts did, gave this lady a key to the city, gave the community free coffee for the whole year. And through this massive event, off of that one drive through the drive-through, and it was not, it was shot on a GoPro camera in a van. And so my point there is like, do these videos and do reps and share them with the right intentions. And you never know what will actually resonate with people.
I love that story. I think I had heard the first part of it, but not the rest of it. That's
Yeah, it's
crazy
crazy.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's so awesome. And again, I think, right, guys, I know I shared this already, but it just comes back to energy and our intention. And when you kind of release the outcome of it, it could land somewhere really, really impactful. And I always say, especially with the inquiry response, which is why I love that your team has really like anchored into that use case. You probably saw me like light up and get really excited, is because even if all of your new inquiries don't respond or they don't come in and tour or they don't choose one of the Gatesworth communities, you all have made an impact and started to shift the narrative on how people view senior living because everybody else is sending them that block of text.
Mhm.
And if your team is showing up saying, "Hi, I'm Christy from the Gatesworth, and I'm so glad that you reached out. I know it probably wasn't easy. I'm going to be here to guide you through the process." even if they don't choose to go through the process right now, that has shifted how they see this. And I think that is one of those like intangible wins that is not going to equate to a dollar amount or be a big ROI figure, but it is making a huge difference. So if nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We will be sending out the recording of this later today, and you'll have access to Patrick's information, Nathan's information. Definitely follow both of them on LinkedIn because they're always posting really great stuff. And so we appreciate you all for being here. Thank you so much. And thank you to Patrick and Nathan for being here as well. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy.
Thanks for
All right.
having us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.